Okay, hot take here. Killing children is wrong.
I don't care what you do. Why is it bad?
I'm explaining to you how science works.
Aphrodite is really manipulative and very petty and very emotionally erratic.
This isn't ACC's views versus DKAS's views. This is Christianity versus Hellenic polytheism.
If all it takes to be divine is to emerge from a concept of material function, divinity becomes just infinite replication and ultimately meaningless.
And people are starting to... Hellenism is making its comeback, slowly but surely.
Hello and welcome to Platinum Politics. I'm your host Mace, and today I have another fantastic debate for you. When we think of religions, we usually think of Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, but a lot of people nowadays don't really think about the old classic Greek religions, as in like Greek gods. I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Hellenic polytheism until this debate, but today we're going to see if DKAS can help Hellenic polytheism stand up to Christianity, debated by ACC. Now, one thing you might also notice in this debate is that there's a cool little overlay that's got the Platinum Politics logo on it. That is because we now do these debates live. Every debate night will be live on the Platinum Politics YouTube channel, and if you want to be the first to see these debates, come and check them out. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and without further ado, it is debate night. We are live and alive on YouTube and Twitch. How's everybody doing?
I'm alright, just fine.
I knew it. I knew the second I unmuted, he was going to talk, because that always happens. But like, yeah, I'm good. I'm chilling.
All right. So today, we're just going to go ahead and get it started. Today, we have a debate, a challenge between two religions, Christianity versus Hellenic polytheism. That is it.
Yes. Correct.
Right. On our Christianity side, we have ACC.
Hi there.
And then on our Hellenic polytheist side, we have DKAS.
Hello.
So we decided that it was going to be 5-minute openings and then 3-minute rebuttals, and then we'll open it up from there. So that, I believe that was mostly agreed upon.
Yeah.
All right. So is there a preference for either one of you starting first?
I'd like to see what DKAS has to say, to be fair.
All right.
Love for her to go first.
Cool, yeah, I'll go first.
DKAS, your first 5 minutes to state what your religion is, why you believe it, and why it is better than Christianity starts now.
Cool. So, Hellenic polytheism is also known as ancient Greek polytheism. We follow the Greek gods. Some important things to note: we have a very clear and baseline morality system. Through the idea of miasma. We have a lot of different paths that you can walk. So one thing I don't like about Christianity is there's one path, very small, very narrow, one path. Few people will get into heaven, everyone else going to hell. With Hellenic polytheism, not only does your faith not matter as to what your afterlife will look like, but also you can get favor of different deities based on your actions and who you choose to gain favor with. So there's that. It's a lot of misconceptions out there, but just another important thing, I guess, would be the myths. A lot of people will start off being like, oh yeah, your gods do terrible things, but not all the myths. A good amount of them, but not all of them, are meant to be taken literally. The myths are very symbolic in nature, at least most of them. Some of them are very literal, but most of them are symbolic in nature. They tell a story that you're supposed to learn something from. And I guess why it's better than Christianity is there's a lot to unpack, and I will definitely get to everything in this debate. But in theory, Christianity is a how to say incoherent mess. In practice, Christianity is a incoherent mess, and I feel like the more you learn about Christianity, the less appealing it gets, and the more you learn about Hellenic polytheism, the more everything makes sense.
Okay, ACC, 5 minutes starts now to tell us why Christianity is better.
Alright, as an Orthodox Christian, I affirm that God is uncaused, eternal, sovereign, and the very ground of being. In Him we live, move, and have our being. Not as a poetic claim, but as a metaphysical necessity. That standard exposes the severe shortcomings of Hellenistic polytheism and the deities of Aphrodite, who simply do not meet the criteria of divinity. Aphrodite is often called the goddess of love and beauty, but it's very misleading. She doesn't cause love or beauty, she is a product of them. According to her own mythos, she is born from sea foam, emerging from Uranus being castrated. This means that she is not the origin of love or desire, she is the effect of pre-existing forces. She is ontologically dependent on them. Any being that is contingent on other things that to exist, by definition, is not divine. Now, I will ask DKAS a question. It's rhetorical for the sake of opening arguments. It's the Eutherio dilemma. I would say it's a problem that was first raised by Socrates against Greek religions. Is something beautiful because Aphrodite declares it so, or does she declare it beautiful because it already is? If beauty exists prior to her will, then Aphrodite is not sovereign. She is subordinate to a higher standard. But if she declares things beautiful simply by choice, that makes beauty arbitrary, and paradoxically makes her own existence, which is based on beauty, subject to her own opinion. Either way, she's kind of trapped her own mythology. But I want to address the major issue about Aphrodite is that she has no real sovereignty. Like all Greek gods, she is subject to morai, or fate. Even Zeus bends to it. These so-called gods can be tricked, overpowered, and bound. In the myths, Aphrodite is really manipulative and very petty and very emotionally erratic. I mean, just read Iliad or maybe even Tartarus, where all her actions are just soap opera like shit. She causes chaos out of jealousy, lust, or pride. I'm like, is this some sort of like conduct for like some divine sovereign or glorified character and like mythological drama? But the thing that I really have an issue with is if Aphrodite is created by love and beauty, then we've already entered absurdity. What stops us from positing a god of HDMI cords or a deity of Dodge Wranglers? If all it takes to be divine is to emerge from a concept of material function, then divinity becomes just infinite replication and ultimately meaningless. Contrast this with the Orthodox Christian God is not from love, he is love. He is not bound by fate, he ordains all things freely. He does not emerge from creation. Creation exists because of him. He is not he's not a character in myth, but the author of reality. He does not copy human culture to stay relevant. He is the source of beauty and goodness itself. Aphrodite is not a god. She is a poetic byproduct of chaotic lust and subjective desire. Her divinity is manufactured, her mythology is contradictory, and her worship is historically reactionary. And in the end, her very existence, like all false gods, points to beyond to itself to a deeper truth. The only uncaused sovereign logos, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, can rightly have the name divine. And I rest my time there.
Alrighty. That was a very well-spoken open statement, ACC. DKAS, 3-minute timer starts now. Tell us why he's wrong there.
Well, first I want to say that was an awesome opening, bro. Like, you killed that preparation. Kind of wish I had prepared now, but I'm gonna just keep going off the brain, off the dome. A couple things I wanted to note is at least context for the audience. Aphrodite is my patron goddess, so I know the most about her. I have the closest connection with her. And I'm actually working to be a priestess of Aphrodite in the future. I will own a temple to her. But with that context aside, the first thing I wanted to address is the God need, like what he said. The first thing he said. Basically it works very similar to Christianity. Basically, if you talk about the Christian God being like good by nature or like morally just by nature, it's kind of circular in that sense, to where it's not good because God said it's good. God just embodies what is good. That's a Christian belief, and it works the same way for Hellenic polytheism with Aphrodite. It's not because Aphrodite says that this is beautiful or this is love. It is an embodiment of what is truth and what is love and what is beautiful. It is why Aphrodite might have a specific depiction of what she looks like, but that depiction is extremely subjective and it is very openly stated that her actual appearance is that of a subjective one. If you look at Aphrodite, like hypothetically, you would see the most beautiful woman to you, and if I see Aphrodite, hypothetically, I always see the most beautiful woman to me. Her form is constantly changing, and it just embodies what is like the peak of beauty. That's why you can't compare her beauty to anything, because she is at the top. It's her nature to be beautiful, and it's her nature to represent love. And that brings me into, well, two things. The thing about her actions in Homer's or Hesiod's work, Homer specifically, her depiction in the Iliad and the Odyssey. But first, I wanted to touch on the fact that her actions literally don't like serve as a role model for humans. It's very specific. Very specifically said. I forget what book it is specifically. I apologize for that. But it's very specifically stated that the gods have different rules than humans. So even if a god does something that may seem
30 seconds.
as
30 seconds.
oh shit. Okay. Skipping that. Basically, shit. Fuck that. Fuck me up. Basically, when it comes down to her actions in the Iliad as being very harsh and very like destructive, I feel like that is also an important aspect of love, because Christ would depict love as like something that's beautiful, something that's like very angelic, which is what Aphrodite Urania represents. But
All
love is
right,
more than just that
Kaz,
aspect.
that is your time. ACC, your 3 minutes starts now. Tell us why DKAS is wrong.
Okay, so I couldn't really keep track of what she was trying to go on about, but I did remember the argument that Aphrodite is subjectively beautiful to everybody. But I don't understand how that's true, because if you go to Aphilasis, I think it's Metamorphoses, I think it's called. There's a story about a woman named Psyche, a mortal woman, and she's so beautiful, they start worshiping her instead of Aphrodite. So Aphrodite, enraged, sends her sons, Cupid, to curse her. But he just falls in love with her instead. And so Aphrodite just starts tormenting Psyche with these nearly impossible, tasks. It's like, I don't understand how she's the pinnacle of beauty, even though majority of the stories around are about her being considered because that's she's considered beautiful. Yet there's so many stories, such as if you want to go with that whole Iliad or the whole Trojan War spiel, she bribes Paris to declare her the fairest goddess by promising him the most beautiful woman in the world, Helena of Sparta, who's already married. He accepts this, leading to the abduction of Helena, or Helen, and the outbreak of the Trojan War and the deaths of thousands. Instead of accepting someone might be more beautiful than Aphrodite, she just sparks basically global conflict over her bruised ego. So there's that aspect of it, and there's also how if you want to at Odyssey, she cheats on her husband Hephaestus with Ares, and Hephaestus is trapped between these two lovers in an unbreakable net. They're all called to laugh at him instead of repent or anything. And so Aphrodite runs to Cyprus to cry about it, while Ares feeds the Thras. So it's so petty that a goddess of love shows no fidelity, no repentance, and no dignity, and her entire behavior is ruled by lust and not divine virtue, like our God here, the one true God, Jesus Christ. So that's kind of where I'm she can't really be considered the god of beauty if there's so many stories about her being compared to other women and being considered not as beautiful compared to them. So that's all I could manage to get from DKAS's, I guess, rebuttal. But yeah, I rest my time.
All right, so I will now open the floor up to the two of you. Chat amongst each other. If it gets a little too crazy, I'll jump in. Make sure y'all don't yell at each other. If I have some questions, I'll ask those to move the conversation forward. But I have the floor open now.
Yeah, so two things. I'll try to keep this more coherent since my last argument wasn't that solid. But yeah, basically when it comes down to her actions, first of all, you kind of told the whole story of Hephaestus and Ares kind of wrong. What happens is she is married to Hephaestus against her will, and then she cheats on Hephaestus with Ares, and then Hephaestus finds out, traps them both in a net, and have the other gods laugh at them. And then Poseidon is the one that kind of tells hey, cut it out, let's chill. But aside with what you said in the about the Trojan War, it wasn't just Aphrodite who bribed Paris. It was all three of the goddesses, because that stems from the Apple of Discord myth, where the goddess of discord, strife, throws a golden apple into the crowd of goddesses and tries to get them to fight because she wasn't invited to the wedding. Basically, it was Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite, and then eventually, after all three of them offers their corresponding bribes to Paris, Paris picks Aphrodite because she is the most beautiful. But also, to counteract your point of like Aphrodite being immoral, like can we talk about like the Christian God also being immoral? Like there's so much.
There's a big difference there.
There's a big difference, yes,
There
because
is, yes.
because genocide is completely okay if you're attacked first and they were sinners. Yeah.
Are you trying to make it seem like that's a bad thing? Because we talked about how your God is not a causation of anything; it is actually a result of causes. So I don't really see how saying that, oh, this is a bad thing, but oh, my God did, quote unquote, even though He is the standard of goodness. He is what is good in the first place.
Okay, here we go. That's exactly what I was waiting for. So I have a
What?
little hypothetical for you.
Okay.
Let's say you get a vision. You get God appears before you. You know it's God. You're not
It is
crazy. You
God.
know
So if God
100%.
told me to do bad thing or do thing, it would be like if God told me to genocide or kill or eat a baby, would I eat the baby because God told me to? Like that's the hypothetical.
Well, I was gonna say kill a bunch of toddlers in a preschool. Would you do that?
I mean, sure, if I want to remain consistent in my worldview, I guess I would, but I don't really see how that's not necessarily like an absurdity in it itself. By like saying, would God do an action that's clearly like, I guess, insane or absurd? Like that's kind of what the action is, I guess. You might as well just ask me, oh, can God create square circles? So
Well, no, because you see this in 1 Samuel 15:3, where God tells these people to go forth and destroy these sinners, destroy all they have, man and woman, infant and toddler, camel and ox. Now, the men and women I can kind of understand, right? But then when you get to the toddlers and the cattle, it's like, what the hell did they do wrong? Why kill them too?
I mean, if you read the stories where when God's people or when people take in the Canaanites, they eventually grow up they grow up and they eventually start disobeying God and straying the Israelites away from God. So there's that aspect as well as why I guess God killed the babies and that's so wrong because
Yes, killing
it's
babies is
wrong
wrong.
because it's wrong because you feel like it is. So if that's the basis of if your morality, then fine. I guess that's just your opinion, but I don't really see how that's a truth claim about my God.
Well, no, because I'm not atheist. I don't believe in subjective morality. I
What do
believe
you mean?
morality is derived from the natural law that is not created but is informed. The humans are informed of the natural law by the goddess Themis, who embodies the natural law. And killing babies, or murder in general,
Did Themis create natural law, or did he come from natural law?
it comes from the natural law. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I don't really see how I would believe in Themis, as Themis did not create natural law, is again an effect of it. So there's something
Yeah,
out there in the Greek
there-
pantheon that's somehow creating these things at which these quote unquote gods emerge from. So
Yeah,
let's
there
like,
are things that are higher than deities. There are constants of the universe, such as like time, for example, or this natural law of morality. And that natural law would say that murder is a transgression. Murder from a human to human, not like an animal, is a transgression on the natural law and will generate miasma for the individual who commits the act.
right, but how exactly can that be considered a law in the first place if there's no like lawgiver? It's just heavens has appeared because there exists natural law and we don't question it. So
How does time exist without like being created?
because God created time. Like I
That's
don't.
not how time
Time
works.
is contingent. It's not how time works. I mean, God. I mean, I'm saying that time is a contingent compared to God, where we have another being who's the causation of everything, including time and space. But your gods,
Wait, so did he
are-
like create time, or does time exist because he exists?
he created time. I don't really
That's
see
not how
how-
time works.
Okay.
Like if you
Like,
know,
second time
like,
using day, that's not how it works. Okay.
I'm a very big science nerd, and I like to like nitpick movies that like do this. Literally, if you need to. If there's no time and like I'm acting on something, it doesn't exist. If like God can't create time, because that would like imply that God existed before time, and if you exist before time, you don't exist. You can't exist outside of time. That's not how the time works.
That's just not how time works according to its contingent nature compared to God's necessary, unchanging, uncaused nature. I mean, like you're comparing
That's
a
such a headache, though. It's so much simpler and makes so much more sense to just be like, yeah, there are some things that are higher than deities. There are constants of the universe.
There's just these floating abstracts around, bro. You just gotta believe it. And these abstracts born these gods. In fact, you know what? I think there might be a Honda Civic god right now, since I think there just is one. Like that's just a part of the natural law there. Like I think there's just this Honda Civic god, and his name is Civic God.
I'm explaining to you how science works.
Yeah,
That's
but
not, like,
you can explain to me how
correlated.
science works, but the thing, like, we're talking about like metaphysics here, where we're talking about the nature of time itself. We're not talking about how time acts in our observed space of science. Like, if we're going to talk about time itself existing, then it's going to be going to the realm of metaphysics, not science. So there's that aspect. But what I'm getting, I'm trying to understand here is just like you keep saying my gods are emergent from these pre-existing things, and I'm like wondering, then how exactly are they God, or anything like that, or really even divine? How are they divine if they need another thing to exist?
Well, there are three criteria to being a deity. The first criteria is you need to be a immortal being that is somewhat omnipresent. The second criteria is you need to have dominion over a concept or aspect of life. And then the third one is you have to be descended from Chaos, the first deity, the only one that is actually uncreated.
Chaos is uncreated.
Yes, she is the goddess of the infinite void. What was there before darkness, before anything? She was there. That was her domain.
Wait, so darkness came first? Not her. She's the result of darkness, of the void, of there being a lack of anything.
No, darkness was birthed from chaos.
Okay. I can't really take this super seriously when all these quote unquote gods are all resultant of just emergent things still. I don't really see how that's so crazy. And there's also, I mean, if we want to even go into the history of all of how exactly Hellenism became quote unquote popular again, it's because of Christianity's rise. It was because Christianity started started growing, and we had all these certain not churches, no, we had all these temples form in response to them. We had all these Romans trying to co-opt Christian traditions, such as incense and such. So I don't see how Aphrodite or the Greek pantheon is more consistent than God, or the Orthodox God Jesus Christ.
Well, for starters, it covers a lot of its own bases. When you get into the whole semantics of how the Bible works, and that the Bible is the word of God, but we don't believe in certain parts of the Bible, such as the parts of the Bible that permit slavery and passing slaves down to your children. We don't believe in that because that's not the word of God. But we can charge interest on loans, even though that's specifically stated that that's against the religion. We can do all this other shit, but when it comes down to something that I disagree with, suddenly it's not the word of God. When you get to Hellenic polytheism, it's very... What do you mean? What would you say?
You kept saying that... Wait, hold on. Go on. Keep going. Sorry, I should not have interrupted.
When you get to Hellenic polytheism, it's very simple concepts. I don't think that a higher power would make things complicated. What is the Christian God trying to root out the dumb people or something like that? It's a lot of very simple concepts that make sense. It actually makes sense.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I'm a Hellenic polytheist. It makes the most sense.
But you haven't... Okay, can there be a god of Honda Civics?
No.
Why?
Because a Honda Civic is not a aspect of life.
But wine is? There's a god of wine. What the fuck? That's an aspect of life that just occurs?
Well, it can be a secondary characteristic, but not
okay, so can my Honda Civic.
Okay, sure, there can be a Honda Civic god if
Okay, that's fucking absurd then!
who would even because again, the third prerequisite is that it has to be a descendant of chaos. And what two deities would come together to make the god of Honda Civics? That doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense that... Oh, it makes more sense that when... What was it? What's his name? It's not Neptune. Yeah, when Neptune got his balls cut off and the foam released from that, Aphrodite just came out. All right, cool.
Yeah, because if you
The
actually
goddess
read,
of love and beauty came from this action. She emerged from a prior cause. Therefore, she rules over to the domain, I guess, because well, she just came out of Neptune. We don't,
it's
and she
it's
represents these
Orano,
aspects because that's just
actually.
how it goes.
But like I will say if you actually read the Hesiod's Theogony, then you would know that it's a very actually poetic nature. Like you can just like dumb it down and be like, oh yeah, this god got his balls cut off. But actually what was going on is the sky and the earth, Oranos and Gaia, were interlocked in union because of Oranos. Oranos was what's the word? Oranos was inside of Gaia. They were interlocked perpetually through intercourse. And Cronus was sent by Gaia to sever that tie. The eternal separation of the earth and sky happened when Oranos' genitals got cut off. It's a very specific and poetic story. And from this act, it drops into the domain of Pontus, the ocean, and sea foam starts to bubble, which love and beauty is the product of that. It's not just like, oh, this god got his balls cut off. It's the eternal separation of the earth and sky, which paved the way for all of life as we know it to exist.
Okay, so it's all the stories are all symbolic, all of them.
It has not all of them.
Not
A lot
all of
have symbolic nature to it, but it's literal. Like I actually think like this happened.
Okay, it's literal, but you're able to derive you're able to derive I literally had it like what I was thinking of. You thought it was I'm trying to think. Not a sign. Oh, symbolism. You thought it's just symbolism then. All like Neptune getting his balls cut off. That he actually didn't get his balls cut off. That's just symbolic of the actual nature between Gaia and whatever, right?
Yeah. Like I think that this like he actually did get his balls cut off and then retreated into the sky, but that action represented something.
Okay, so these actions represent something, but they're symbolic as well.
Yes.
I don't. Okay, then how are they symbolic if they represent something that occurred? Like the whole thing about like symbolism is that they with symbolism, I'm pretty sure it's like it's supposed to not necessarily be literal, but it's supposed to have derived meaning or ideas. Like, for example, the color red will symbolize love. But then, like, I guess, like, I don't understand the symbolism between Aphrodite, being derived from the sea foam from Gaia and the sky separating, or the sea separating, to, yeah, then therefore this deity exists and is actually worthy of worship because she's oh so divine because, well, it just makes sense, is what I'm understanding.
Oh, there's actually, if you look into the not the Homeric hymns, the other ones, the Orphic hymns, yes. If you look into the Orphic hymns, that will give you a very good idea of exactly why Aphrodite is worshipped and how they worshipped her. Because when you look into like the Iliad and the Odyssey, that's really like surface level like information. But then when you get into the actual the meat and potatoes of it, with Aphrodite Urania and Aphrodite Pandemos, then you start to realize exactly why she has her place in Olympus, why she is revered as this like amazing goddess. Because Aphrodite Urania translates to the heavenly, and Pandemos translates to common to all the people. And I actually had this debate. I think it was on this server. Yeah, I was talking about how Aphrodite was a better symbol of or representation of love than Jesus. And one of my biggest points was that Jesus had to specifically say, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And Christians today still kind of don't do that most of the time. There's some that do, right? But a lot of them just don't.
Argument. It's just an appeal,
And then
appeal to that populace, essentially.
with Aphrodite Pandemos, the meaning changed over time, but it became a promise. Not saying that Aphrodite represented love that was common to the people, but instead Aphrodite is a promise that love will be common to all the people. Therefore, saying essentially the same thing as love your neighbor as yourself, but encompassing more of what love meant and promising that to each individual. This is what caused the unification of Athens during a time period where people were kind of hating on each other. And really, I think it can expand past this ancient time and can unify the greater people. Like in an alternate reality in which Hellenic polytheism is actually a respected big religion, I think that could be a very good unification symbol because yeah, love is common to all the people. Like it doesn't even need explaining. Like everyone knows love, and everyone should know love. It speaks for itself, really.
But this goes back to the ethereal dilemma. Like, if she decides what love and beauty is, it's all arbitrary to what she considers as that. But if she doesn't, then love and beauty do exist on their own, and Aphrodite isn't needed to be worshipped at all. I'd rather worship the thing that created beauty in the first place, or love, rather than the thing that came from it. This deity that loves starting wars over not being a pick-me girl or some shit. From what I see, like yikes. I don't really. I think most of it's just been you going on about how it makes sense, but I feel like most of the aspects that quote unquote make sense, all of which come from literally it came from the cults that started with Aphrodite were from Cyprus and Corinth, which is where a lot of it they didn't start until after Christianity began spreading everywhere. The one religion that was taking in slaves or former slaves and then was saying that no, you're actually equal to all of us here. The one religion that had everyone there were more poor people than actual aristocrats, say the Greek pantheon, where we had all these fucking people who would worship or would love the Greek pantheon, even though they weren't really loving I guess their quote unquote their neighbor. But when you say that, Christians, Jesus had to say that you love thy neighbor. The thing is, no, Jesus is love. He is love itself. He is the reason why it exists. Your God isn't the reason why love exists at all. Why would I want to worship a God who's not the reason why the thing exists? That's simple. The question.
Well, we already went over what happens when you see that this sentient being, this deity, is is the stem or the source of this principle. Because when you believe that God the Father, or the God, not God the Father specifically, but when you believe that your God represents morality and morality stems from your God, or love stems from your God, then it paves the way for you to have such a skewed and just messed up idea of what these concepts are.
Yeah, on what standard? Definitely not Aphrodite's standard, because she's not the reason why they exist in the first place. So
by the standard of you would shoot up a kindergarten if God told you to.
Yeah, but again, that's just a
pretty
logical
bad,
absurdity
bro.
in itself.
That's a pretty
It's
bad
literally
thing to
saying,
admit.
can God create a square circle? No.
It's
Guess
not
he's
even
not all powerful
a
then.
circle.
Your God would command you to shoot up a school, hypothetically? Guess he's an asshole. Same.
1 Samuel 15:3. You still haven't properly addressed this.
What do you want me to say? I already addressed it. I don't understand how can God be wrong. That's that's the source of my problem here. How can God be wrong in this circumstance?
Because hot take here. Hot take, guys. Killing children is wrong.
Why?
I don't care what the circumstances is. If you're a little infant and toddler, or in some translations, infant and suckling, you're breastfeeding, I'm not gonna kill you. What? There's so many other things you could do in that situation.
I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do. You're not the creator of all things. It's that simple. You can say, I'm morally surprised that your God would do all these things. How could he? Well, it's in this time where we have people literally sacrificing children, and we have people throwing trying to bring in the Israelites to rape and do all these awful things to other people. Sodom and Gomorrah. But we don't for some reason that's so bad when God's saying, okay, I am tired of dealing with these people. I want you to just get rid of them at this point. God had commanded the Israelites, or I tried to tell the Israelites to go and convince these people to stop killing them or to stop attacking them, when it's so it's literally God's there. He is there. He is literally in front of you, and you're saying, no. It's just so it's absurd to me, how it's this is so crazy of an argument, when it's just basing this idea that God is wrong here, and which is begging the question, why is he wrong here?
He's wrong because killing infants is bad.
Why is it bad?
Well, do you want the logical answer or the answer that Hellenic polytheism gives?
Yeah, I want your worldview's answer as to how you can how can you determine that these things are wrong?
Well, I don't base my morality based off of entirely what my gods say, but it does play a factor. So I'll give you both. The religious reason, Hellenic polytheist reason, is that murder is a transgression upon the natural law. Therefore, it generates miasma. Miasma is bad. It attracts horrible spirits to come ruin your life.
Natural law question. How does it exist? We just know this guy came from this quote unquote natural law. But where does this natural law occur? Is there some sort of mind that is able to think of such natural law in the first place?
Okay, hypothetically, right? This isn't a threat. Hypothetically, if I walk up to you and punch you in the nose, what causes you to feel pain?
What causes me to feel pain?
Yes, is there like an intelligent mind telling you to feel pain, or is it just like a consequence of the action?
Yeah, you know what? Let's run through this. Sure.
There is an intelligent mind telling you to feel pain?
No, I have nerves that tell my brain that there's something going on that's pain.
Yes, exactly. It's a consequence of being punched in the face.
Okay,
so this natural law says that there are consequences to doing things that transgress upon this natural law. It's
There's a natural law in which this God arrived from, this natural law. But where does it come from? What made natural law in the first place for this God to emerge from?
It's a constant of the universe. It just exists.
It just exists. So how does that not fall into Platonism in that aspect?
Wait, what'd you say?
How does it not fall into Platonism? It just exists, like these abstract entities exist.
I want to throw out a question here because they're both kind of. I feel like this is a core of each of your arguments, and what is the validity in either of your religions? Like for example, Christianity has the Bible. I don't know exactly what Hellenic polytheism has, but I'll start with DKAS because they have the more unique religion. And I'll just explain the backing. Like, what is the proof that your religion is a good and possibly the correct one? You have 2 minutes.
So you
have 2 minutes, DKAS.
Okay. So really quickly, it's centered around oral tradition, basically. If enough people, right? Let's say you have a test at a school. And everyone, except for maybe 2 or 4 people in the class, get the same answer. It's probably the right answer, So the truth factor behind Hellenic polytheism, I would start by saying, okay, is there likely a God, right? I forget the exact number, but basically the majority of humanity agrees, yeah, there is a God of some sort. Whether you're agnostic, whether you're a Christian, we all agree that there's some deity, there's something that made us. So that I would see as a truth. There is evidence for specific religions. Some are stronger than others, but the general consensus is that there is a deity. Like one religion or a religion we haven't found yet is right. So then I would take a step further and say that the pagans were closer to the truth than the other religions, the monotheistic religions. This is mainly due to there's a lot of the things that come from paganism, or specifically Hellenic polytheism, I guess, are rooted in things we already know as common sense. Like when you get into the Bible, I won't go on a whole tangent, right? But the Bible has a billion things in it that you can and cannot do, and it kind of gets into the area of, is this actually like necessary? As to where with Hellenic polytheism, again with this natural law, it's don't kill, don't rape, don't commit incest, don't commit cannibalism, and like a few others. So you get closer to the truth, I think, with this. And then I would take that a step further to say, when you look at the pagans historically, wait, can I finish the sentence, please? When you look at the pagans historically, there's one group that stands out amongst them as the most enlightened, I would say, and that would be the Greeks, the ancient Greeks. Everyone else were fucking barbarians. But the Greeks were so good that the Christians didn't have much to say about them specifically in the Bible.
All right. One run-on sentence later. I'm just messing with you. ACC, 2 minutes to explain the backing and core of your religion and why it is right.
Okay, the backing of my religion is that we have historical evidence of it as well. There's historical evidence to say that the events have occurred. We know that Jesus Christ walked the earth. We know these things. It's just the thing that's debated is whether or not they happened, which is a whole separate debate. But that's kind of the basis of how we know, how I know that my God's definitely the one true God. There's also how there's the transcendental argument for God, which I did in the last debate, where I said that, God's a necessary precondition for logic and knowledge. We have logic and knowledge, therefore God exists. There's the transcendental argument for that. I think DKAS is kind of argument of oral tradition doesn't really make any sense considering Christianity has oral tradition as well. It's just older. There's also how she appealed to an ad populum where we all agree that some semblance of a deity exists. It's like, well, not really. That doesn't really make it true. If we all somewhat agree that it exists, what makes something true is say the impossibility to the contrary in some if it's metaphysical, but not if it's empirical. But I don't necessarily understand how even the whole test example was kind of absurd to me because it was just Wagner's Pascal saying that, oh, they're likely to be right, when if I went down the same reasoning for Christianity, then I guess I just be right because I'm more likely to be right than it being polytheistic, like polytheism by any standard at all. But the fact remains is, historically speaking, polytheism didn't start rising, or it didn't start making its own sort of theology or practices until after Christianity started rising in the Greco-Roman world. For example, all the hymns, the incense, the temples, all that came from Christianity. It wasn't thought of because they thought, oh, Aphrodite said we should do this. It's just so bad. I don't know. I don't really see how. Or actually, one more thing: the whole appeal to it's just common sense is just a myth of the given fallacy. What we understand of what is common sense is not necessarily a priori at all. It's all just it's based upon what our society lives in to understand what is quote unquote common sense. 5,000 years ago, or better yet, 100 years ago, marital rape, for example, was considered wasn't even considered rape. It was just considered normal sex. But now it's common sense to say no, that's rape. So saying common sense here isn't a good argument. So yeah, I don't really see how DKAS's reasoning is better than mine in this circumstance. So I rest my time.
All right. Feel like maybe we can understand it a little more. I will open the floor up for, we'll say 15 minutes, and I might interrupt with a question about then. So, floor is open.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to say is, I don't know how it's delusional to say that if most people come to a similar conclusion, that it's probably right. Before we knew what air was, right? Well, before we knew what oxygen was, everyone was like, oh yeah, we can breathe. We're alive. We can breathe, guys. Maybe we should look into that. We should look into why we can breathe and why we're alive. And then we actually got the tools to study that and figure out exactly what was going on there. I think we're in that first stage of, yeah, there's a deity or multiple deities, and we need to prove it. We can't exactly prove it right now. It doesn't mean we'll never be able to prove it. But
I did. I made the transcendental argument for God. Therefore, I don't see how my positioning is wrong.
Wait, say that again?
I made an argument. I utilized a transcendental argument for God. The modus ponens. If God is a necessary precondition for logic and knowledge, we have logic and knowledge. Therefore, God exists. That's basic. It's a modus ponens. It's a disjunctive syllogism as to why it's true, or as to why I could prove my God exists, metaphysically at least, through a metaphysical argument. But whenever I ask you, how exactly do you demonstrate that these gods exist? It's kind of just, well, we all have a feeling.
Well, because of the origins of it, I didn't really get to the origins because I only had 2 minutes. But I'll briefly explain that the origins of Hellenic polytheism started with smaller cults in different areas. And they when these different groups came together, they were like, oh, you're talking about this goddess? We have this goddess. Oh my gosh, it's almost like we're talking about the same goddess. And yeah, they were kind of talking about the same goddess. See, I'm a very big, very, very big on syncretism. Most ancient
I can
Greeks,
tell.
yeah, most ancient Greeks as well as modern day Hellenic polytheists are very big on syncretism. So I really believe Ishtar is Phrygia, is Aphrodite, is Venus. They're all the same goddess. But going back to what I said earlier, amongst all the pagans, the Hellenics were, or the ancient Greeks were, the most enlightened. They actually had order, which
Yeah, and
is
it wasn't because of the Greek gods at all.
well, you're gonna say it's because of the Christians, but well, I don't
No, I
even
wouldn't
get
say that
that.
either.
I almost completely brushed past this. I was so confused when you said that the temples and stuff were because of the Christians. When Jesus literally was it Jesus in the Bible, somewhere in the Bible, I forget exactly where. In the Bible, it specifically God calls on the people to destroy the pagan temples, which in itself is kind of immoral because I don't believe destruction of property is a good thing, whether it's
I don't
like
really care what you consider whether or not. It's just your feelings. Like that's all it is. How you feel. So it's not really a universal. Like it's not justifying it not for why
I
we.
guess, right? But like at some point we have to like agree this is right, this is wrong.
No,
And I
we
think
no,
most people would
absolutely
agree
not.
that
No.
destruction of other people's property, whether it's public or private, is kind of wrong. I don't care if it's a trans flag on someone's house or it's a swastika flag on someone's house. That's not your property. Don't touch it.
Okay, that's a weird non sequitur considering God is literally the literally is the reason why all things exist. So he could just say, I don't really give a shit about your private property. I think you making a temple to sacrifice your babies for a blood god is pretty bad, so I'm ready to destroy it.
Hey,
So
but
I think that's
ACC,
completely reasonable, but that's just me there, I guess.
ACC,
Or God in that aspect.
so everything is God's property, so God can do what he wants. So is if God instructed you to rape someone because a woman's body
Again,
is
the
God's
absurd
created.
hypothetical thinking it destroys my worldview when all it is just a logical absurdly logically absurd thing. That's all it is.
It's literally not absurd.
It is absurd. It's just saying if God did heinous action or said do heinous action,
Define absurd.
absurd in the realm of which there is no coherence. There is no way of understanding.
In my last hypothetical, and even this hypothetical, do we not see examples of this in the Bible?
Of what? Like God commanding people. I gave you like an explanation as to why. It wasn't just because God felt like it. He had his fifis hurt and he told people to kill these like people.
Well, yeah, but that makes it not like absurd because it actually happened.
You're basically giving me this hypothetical in the vacuum. I'm showing how there's context as to why God commanded it. There's complete context as to why. There's hundreds of years of active war of the Israelites preaching, begging the Canaanites to please just love God and to stop sacrificing their children and to stop gang raping each other. But it said that Canaanites are like, nah, I'm gonna keep doing what I want. It's kind of how it just goes. And so God's like, I'm fucking tired of this. It's been over 300 years of this shit. I want my people to drive them out. I don't care how it goes.
Okay. We're going in circles. We can get
Oh,
past.
we're going in circles. It's because you keep bringing up the same problem when I made 3 arguments which you've yet to refute about. Just saying.
Because you get it. You would do literally anything if God told you to. We get it. Like you would kill a baby, you would rape someone, you would do all this. We get it. We get it. Let's move on from that.
That's cute. Okay, what do we move on to now? What do you want to talk about? Because you're the one who keeps trying to talk about how my God is so evil. Yet you can't really substantiate why exactly we should worship Aphrodite in the first place, considering Aphrodite is ontologically dependent on other factors.
Well, very simple. Since Aphrodite is the Aphrodite is the not conception, that's not the right word. Representation of love and beauty. You can see again in the Orphic hymns that she represents more than just the lustful, petty person that is depicted in Homer's Iliad. Then you would see that we should kind of practice philautia. We self-love. We should practice what's it called?
If she's a symbol of love, then she's not divine or not a god. She's a poetic character. That's it. Done.
Well, how you define God is different from how I define God. So there's no.
I'm saying divine. No, we're not going to go down this rabbit. How I define God. No, even if you want to go with every definition, she is not a ruler of her realm. She has no sovereignty over it, and she literally is dependent on the thing itself to exist. There's no way that if she's a symbol of love, then she's just like, it doesn't mean like she created love. She doesn't control love. And like she's just a symbol of something that doesn't even that's just her opinion about. Ironically, that's the irony of it all. It's paradoxical how Aphrodite exists. So
She represents love. She's not created by love. She is love.
oh, now she is love. She's love itself.
Yeah, she didn't create it, right?
So she
But
wasn't emergent from Neptune at all, or Gaia, whatever symbolism you want to go into.
yeah, she emerged from the sea.
And then love exists. Then love started existing when she emerged from the sea.
Not exactly.
So no.
It's a little bit weird with stuff like that pertains to primordial deities, because love existed before Aphrodite. She is just the main goddess of love. But that doesn't mean she's the only deity of love, because Eros, who is the personification deity of love, also exists. And to answer your question, yes, before Eros, there was not love. There was not procreation.
So why don't we just worship Eros? Why don't you just worship him?
I do. I do.
Okay, so you worship Aphrodite and you worship Eros, who created love, essentially.
Yeah, Eros created love in a sense. I wouldn't use the word created though, because it's more of love came into being at the same time as Eros. Eros didn't it's not in the same context of God, your God creating.
So love started existing with Eros. Okay.
Yes.
So Eros didn't create love.
No. Yeah, that's what I was explaining.
Who created love? Love just started existing. It just popped in.
Well, think of it like this. Fire is hot, right?
Yeah.
With fire comes heat. With Eros comes love.
Yeah, but I don't need Eros for love. Love exists by itself. So, by your example, fire wouldn't create heat, but heat would have fire. So, I don't really see how that's great when your god literally is dependent on some abstraction to exist. It just seems like it's Platonism. Like, seriously, it just seems like you have these abstracts floating around the place, and we just know they're there, but we don't really know what they look like, how they are, or what they are. We just know that these things emerged from them, though. We do know that. And we call them deities or quote-unquote gods when they don't really rule over anything. So,
well, doesn't that counter Christianity too? Like, there's this being that's in the sky that we don't know who he is or what he looks like. And he created everything.
No, we do know this being. She is, again, the arbiter of all that is good. So that includes love. We know God created love. Love doesn't exist without God. That's simple. So the reason why I worship my God is because he is the creator of all good things. Your God is not. Your God is a result of
all good and all bad things.
No, if you're going to appeal to that, what was it again? I forgot the specific verse, but it's chaotic.
Oh, have you heard this before? If God is all good, why do children get cancer?
Really? I mean, if we want to go into Orthodox theology, sure. Where the reason why kids get cancer is because we live in a fallen world. That's why.
What do you mean fallen world?
We live in a fallen world that was once perfect, that was now corrupted by sin.
Wait, there's no way. Wait, so
is this miasma?
Wait,
that sounds a lot like miasma.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds a lot like miasma. Too bad it's not, because Christianity predates miasma by every metric. Oops.
Christianity didn't exist when miasma was like a thing.
Really?
Yeah, miasma was Christianity existed in this. Okay, I'm tripping over my words because I'm so flabbergasted about this. Hellenic polytheism the term Hellenic describes a time period between 600 BC and 30 BC. This is the height of the ancient Greek society. Christianity kind of came after that. Jesus came after that. So I don't know how miasma came from Christianity. What? I think when you take I see why people don't fuck with Orthodox because when you take something as simple as sin, a separation from God, and you turn it into a spiritual pollution or social or contagion, it stops being sin. It's no longer just separation from God. It is now a pagan concept, which Christians love stealing pagan concepts and making it their own.
Can you name one?
Christmas.
Christmas is not pagan, sorry.
You ever heard of Yule?
Yeah, Yule actually occurs before Christmas, during December 25th. It's always been December 25th. Yule literally occurs through, it's a whole week of holidays. You're wrong.
Where do you think all the Christmas traditions came from?
I mean, you could argue maybe the Christmas tree, but there's really not much, evidence, apart from the fact it comes after the 15th century.
The tree, the star, the giving gifts, the singing.
Yeah, that comes from that's all after, the 15th century. century that all those practices occurred. There's no evidence suggesting they occurred before the fact.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, what do you mean? Sure. That's absolutely true. All these practices, quote unquote, that were pagan, all occur mostly past the 15th century. It's like the gift giving, the trees, all that occurs. What's next? Are you telling me that Sol Invictus is actually another thing that Christianity co-opted, even though Sol Invictus comes before Christmas again?
Wait, what's Sol Invictus? That sounds familiar.
Sol Invictus is like, I think, the celebration of the sun god. I forgot the name. Fuck. Is it I don't think so.
Helios?
It's Helios, I think. But that doesn't occur. Sol Invictus wasn't recognized until hundreds of years after Christmas was recognized. So again, but no, to concede,
Even if I concede that Christmas is not has nothing to do with pagans, how do you explain the depictions of hell?
There's a difference between hell, like
before I get into that, are you a Christian that believes that hell is a fiery place of torture, or are you a Christian that believes it is a separation of God?
Separation of God.
Okay.
Hell, but it's just because it's separated from God.
Wait, so you think it's fiery torture because it's separation from God?
Well, it may feel that way. That's the clarification.
Gotcha. Well, I can't really say anything about your specific views, but the general consensus with a lot of Christians is that
I don't care.
Well,
I don't care. Appeal to your ad populum. I do not care. I follow literally the one true church. I don't care if there's. You could have 5 billion Christians who believe it's a fiery place of hell that's like cartoonishly with the devil with a pitchfork.
ACC,
it's not affect my views or my beliefs.
This isn't ACC's views versus DKAS's views. This is Christianity versus Hellenic polytheism. So you can not.
I appeal to other sects of Christianity as if it's an argument against me. So again,
because you're not even arguing Orthodox Christianity. You're arguing Christianity. So yeah, I will bring up the fact that
I now have
Christians.
All of a sudden now there's this new burden that I have to protect all these splinter sects as well. So that's all right. Why would I want to defend?
Because whether you personally agree with it or not, many Christians, a lot of Christians believe that hell is a fiery place of torture, and this is stolen directly from my religion, the Greeks, with their depiction of Tartarus and the fields of punishment.
Not really. So
Google.
I mean, Google.
Google.
Yeah, yours is a place. Mine is a separation of God that leads to suffering, and thus it could be all sorts of different things. It doesn't have to be a fiery place of hell. But there's also the fact is that when you have Christian, like if you look at the Old Testament, you didn't went to hell. Wait.
Hold on, my fiance just reminded me of something. So like what do you imagine heaven to be like?
A really nice place. I don't know. Really nice place though.
Like, but like the art and stuff. You have like the white gates and like the clouds and like the sunshine.
Are you
everyone's dancing? Yeah, that's also my religion. That's Elysium.
This co-op's my religion, so therefore I'm right and you're wrong. Too bad your God really requires things to exist in order to be considered even a God in the first place. So
it's not even like a case of this just happened to be similar. No, they took it directly from us. It's like if I made a drink that was called Red Cow. It's an energy drink called Red Cow, guys. It's not stolen from Red Bull. I promise. You
realize like the Hellenic pantheon that was like synthesized, like the Zeus, Hera, Aphrodite. Yeah, it wasn't systematized until like 700 BC or 8th century BC, which that's after the Old Testament.
That's a big jump here, but
it's a big jump. What do you mean? You made this whole previous argument before that my religion steals from yours. Okay, the formalization of the Hellenic pantheon doesn't occur until the 7th or 8th century. So that's after the Old Testament. So your whole argument about antiquity.
You're saying that a monotheistic religion caused a polytheistic religion to have a order of gods that control everything? Are you arguing the Olympians didn't exist?
No, I'm referring to the whole system of like the whole pantheon itself. There's the belief of all these other gods, but it wasn't systematized until fucking Hesiod? Until Hesiod, I think.
It entirely was. There were entire laws passed in ancient Greece that were entirely stemmed from the gods.
Yeah, I'm saying
you know what
the
Athens is.
pantheon itself wasn't systematized until Hesiod.
Wait, what do you mean by systematized?
Like it wasn't put. It's a synthesis of what occurs later. It comes after the Old Testament, so there's plenty of aspects where like Exodus predates stuff that like Homer or Plato wrote. So
Well, what are you saying? Like, what
that
specifically?
your
would
argument
you
about
say?
my practices predate yours, therefore yours copies mine is a bad argument because then by your own logic, the aspects that came from Exodus or other aspects of the Old Testament came before the whole systematization of Hesiod, like, or the whole like idea of like what Homer would write in the 8th century. All these concepts from the Old Testament predate the like formalized Hellenic pantheon. So
But just
if this
because it predates it doesn't mean it's directly copied from or inspired
Oh
by.
wow! I'm so glad you're saying this because that's true for my argument. That's true for my beliefs as well. I'm so happy we agree. All right,
But
so
if you do the research and you look into it, it's not that this just existed like this after Christianity or after Hellenic polytheism. It's directly inspired by and taken from it.
that is okay. Now you're just cherry picking because I could do the same fucking thing for like what occurred in the pantheon with Homer. How the whole theogony and later with Homer, all that shit came with Hesiod was coming after the Old Testament. So I could do the exact same thing. So
That's
I
not
don't
what I
really.
said.
Oh okay.
I'm not saying that it came afterwards, therefore it is a copy. I'm saying the religious scholars of the time and after all agree that it was a concept taken from the ancient Greeks.
Name one.
Multiple of them.
What scholar from that time? Name a church father that was like, yeah, man, I kind of liked the fact that they pray and they believe an angel will come down and they like do it in front of this like fountain. Therefore, we gotta do that too. Like, show me an authority of
Plato.
Christianity that like completely agrees that yeah, we co-opted like aspects of paganism, bro.
Plato.
Plato's not a Christian.
Well, do you think the Christians are going to talk shit about the Christians?
I think they were. They absolutely did. What do you think the schism was about, you fucking silly Billy? Like, this is so absurd. Like, you're saying that I'm actually just lost because it's just you're all over the place where you want to say that Christianity is co-opting aspects of Hellenistic of Hellenism or of like Hellenistic polytheism, but then when I point out how look at that, there's aspects of Hellenistic polytheism that come after the Old Testament that hey looks like it copies. You say no. You could actually see that there's these people, these scholars that agree with me during the same time. Now, I'm asking you to name one, and then you said fucking Plato, who would say that apparently, who said that polytheism or Greek Hellenism is copying, or I'm sorry, is the Old Testament is copying, or the Bible itself and all the Christian traditions are copying Hellenism.
Yeah, because again, I'm not saying that it's because it comes after. I'm saying people, unbiased people, because Plato is not a Hellenic and polytheist, and he wasn't a Christian. Unbiased people, relatively unbiased sources are saying, like, yeah, because they kind of took this from that.
You said Plato, and Plato comes before, like, the New Testament.
But if you can tell me, like, a scholar that says that the Greeks took from the Christians, then okay. Like, if you can give me a name.
I never made that argument. I'm pointing out the reasoning you're using is dumb. That's it.
But my reasoning is that scholars agree with what I'm saying.
What scholars? I'm not going to argue that this is an appeal to authority at this point because it kind of is. But what fucking scholars? Please, you said Plato, which I don't understand.
Yeah, if you look into the works of Plato, he tells you that this shit is Elysium and punishment are both taken and used as heaven and hell.
Okay.
Like, if I want to be specific, I guess if I want to work with myself and the
very
concept
simple
of
question.
Okay, what?
Does the Old Testament come before Plato?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, then what the fuck are you talking about? It's just what are you talking about? If you're arguing that Plato says, "Oh, look at that, it's copying Hellenism," or I'm sorry, this aspect is hell, and this aspect is heaven. Plato said that about Hellenism. Now suddenly, therefore, he's making a critique against Christianity.
Well, yeah, because it's not
What?
The concepts themselves, right? As I was about to say, the concept of going to bad place when die or going to good place when die is not specific to the Greeks, but the depictions we have how many Christians view it, how all the art is viewed. It's all from the same depictions that the Greeks had of Elysium and punishment. And many scholars, including Plato's the most notable one because I know most about Plato, agree with that consensus.
If you did, you would realize that your view would fall into Platonism, the way how you treat these abstract entities as just existing. But this is so mind numbing. You're saying that since all these people view it this way, therefore Christianity can be viewed through a Greek pagan sense because it's depicted this way, and all these other Christians believe it's this way. So therefore, it's against Christianity is co-opting some aspects of Hellenism.
Wait, sorry, say that again. I got distracted.
So since we have Plato saying that, oh yes, this is hell and this is heaven, and so Plato said that, and then we have these Christians saying, oh, hell is this fiery place that sucks. Oh, this sounds a lot like this place. Okay, therefore that makes Christianity like false, or it makes it less coherent, or it's copying the Greek pantheon because there's a large number of people who hold up this perception of hell.
Well, yeah, like, but by that same logic, you can't say that Jesus was alive, because the main thing with Jesus being alive was eyewitness testimony, and him being crucified, that was all eyewitness testimony. So if you don't believe in a lot of people saying this happened, then you can't believe that Jesus lived and was crucified.
All right.
Hold on.
So what's going to happen from now, we're going to have a 10-minute timer, and then I'm going to see if anybody wants to come up and ask you guys any questions. 10-minute timer starts now. The floor is still open.
Anybody want to? Oh, I guess use Q&A.
Come on, guys, ask us some questions.
No, I was going to give the 10-minute timer, and I was going to do the Q&A after.
Oh, so like it's open for right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you realize you made a non sequitur, right?
What is a non sequitur?
It doesn't, like, the point you made does not track with the premise you're trying to push. That you said that, oh, since all these Christians view it this way, and we had these eyewitness testimonies from the Gospels, and they view Jesus, therefore you can't say that Jesus existed if you dismiss all these Christians' perception.
Yeah, if you disagree
That's a
with
non sequitur.
if you disagree with what I'm saying, because it's all just people saying shit, then you kind of can't believe in this other thing. It's also just people saying shit.
It's a belief system in which it's been culturally influenced to say that, oh, we believe that hell's this, and we have all these depictions of hell. That doesn't necessitate that therefore Christianity is copying Hellenism. Neither does it necessitate that the eyewitness testimonies of Jesus Christ from the Gospels are false, because Christians hold a false perception about how hell is. Those don't align at all. I don't understand how this is a serious argument you're proposing.
Sorry, my brain blanked.
I'm trying to make this really clear.
Yeah.
The argument you're making is, since these Christians hold that hell is this fiery pit, and it's a lot like the Hellenistic idea of what bad place is. And so when you had these two things here, since Christians view it this way, like the Greeks do, therefore, if I dismiss all these Christians' views of hell, I then have to concede that the eyewitness testimonies of Jesus Christ were false, because I dismissed these Christians' perception of hell?
Yeah, that's called cherry picking.
That's not cherry picking. That's like that's not the same thing at all. There was a completely thing.
So you think that this is cool, this is eyewitness testimony, but that's not cool, that's eyewitness testimony.
No, it's not eyewitness testimony. If I see, let's just say we have a Southern Baptist guy, and you ask him what's hell, he's like, oh, fiery bad place. Okay, I don't necessarily see how that means, oh, since his view is could be conceptually wrong, therefore the testimonies of Jesus Christ are wrong, even though the testimonies are supposed to be like just sitting. It's supposed to be an eyewitness testimony of an event that occurred, while people's perception of things is not an event that has occurred. It's just a belief or a cultural belief that's been influenced. Like this is a bad argument.
I'm literally just saying, the scholars of the time, right? I even gave you an example, are saying that, yeah, this is taken from this, and you're like, no, that's not true. Why do you just believe them? Why do you believe what they say? So I'm saying, why do you believe the people that's saying that Jesus like rose from the dead or like was crucified? Why do you believe them but you don't believe these guys?
You're saying that these scholars say that they are co-opting aspects of Christianity, right? Or no, I'm
Correct.
sorry, they're co-opting aspects of Hellenism. Sorry, they're co-opting
Yeah,
aspects
yeah.
of Hellenism. Okay, these scholars say that. Now you're saying this is comparable to people witnessing God walk the earth.
Yes, because it's the
No,
same
it is
thing.
not.
The scholars of the time are saying, yeah, Jesus definitely lived and he definitely got crucified. What's the disconnect here?
The disconnect is so obvious. It's just that when I witness something occur, such as a guy coming back from the dead, that is my testimony. But when I say I think hell is this, that is it is a cultural perception of something. That's not a testimony. That's the difference.
But I'm not saying that you yourself are saying
You
hell
just
is
were
good.
appealing to a large number of Christians the entire time and you made it so that I had to defend all of Christianity. So it's just this is so absurd.
Okay, bro. I don't even know how else to explain it. Like, literally, the scholars are saying that, yeah, Christianity kind of took this from the Greeks, and you're just like, oh.
You know what? I'm literally the fact that I'm letting you grant that these quote unquote scholars exist. I'm letting you grant that these scholars exist, right? But the thing is, that's like if these
Gave you a
scholars.
name.
What?
Do you want me to get more names for you? I gave you a name.
You gave me Plato, who again comes after the Old Testament. The Old Testament had an idea of what hell is before the establishment of the Greek pantheon in the 8th century.
Hold on, give me 1 sec.
So I just don't see how this tracks at all.
Sheol.
Sheol. Sheol's in the Old Testament. Predates.
Yes.
Literally predates Plato.
Yes.
So him saying, oh, Christianity steals from Hellenistic paganism cannot be fucking true when this concept existed before Plato.
Well, again, like as I said earlier, the concept of go bad place when die, go good place when die if you're good. That is not original. It's not like the Greeks didn't make that. Everyone had that. And that's where the word Sheol comes in. That was in the Old Testament. That was what they had. And then when you move past just what the Old Testament says, when you go into what the New Testament says, as well as the depictions of art, as well as what you say as a Christian, what you think hell is, it looks suspiciously similar. Like if you Google search the historical depictions of hell, and then you Google search historical depictions of
care.
It's literally the fucking same.
This is not an argument. It's not an argument against Christianity. If people have a perception of how hell is, and it looks a lot like the Greek idea of what hell is, doesn't necessitate that Christianity is co-opting aspects of the Greek pantheon.
So you're telling me if a lot of people, right? A lot of people have this idea in their head because of the way it's taught, and then all of the paintings of the time are suspiciously similar, and then you have the scholars of the time saying that yes, it was taken. You just think it's not taken just because it's like it's not. If it was one thing,
why it's not taken.
Hold on. If it was one of these things, or two of these things, right? Then you can make the argument. But there's just so much overwhelming evidence that it was taken. I don't know why you're dying on this hill. Everything is pointing to them taking this concept.
Dog shit. You keep saying, oh, this perception of people making a picture looks a lot like how the Greeks made the pictures. Somehow makes it seem like, oh, that therefore they co-opted the idea of people go to bad place when they die.
Guys,
that's the argument.
Guys, if I make an energy drink and I call it red cow, if I make an energy drink called Red Cow, you think I'm gonna get sued? Like, there's nothing to say that it's not copied, bro.
I don't really see how this is equivalence at all, because what you're trying to say is since Jesus described it this way, and we have people that drew it like this way, therefore the Greeks
Muppo is kind of right. Muppo is kind of right. This doesn't really like prove or disprove anything.
Yeah, you're the one who's making the fucking argument here. I'm pointing out that it's stupid.
You're the one dying on the hill. Like,
no, I'm not. I'm saying this is a bad argument. This is Christianity is just copying Hellenistic paganism because of hell, or because Christians drew hell a certain way.
Well, yeah. I explained this 5 times. I don't want to explain this.
It's not a good explanation. It's a non sequitur every time. There's no at all. Like, you try making it seem like people's perception of how art is the same as how the testaments, literally the eyewitness testimony of Jesus Christ.
Okay. Do you have a different argument now? So we're not going in circles for another 10 minutes?
Sure. What's
Well,
okay? What's a
actually,
good
we're
argument?
going
Oh,
to
actually, no,
move
let's do this
to
Q&A. Fuck it, why
question
not?
time. Is there
Damn.
anybody that just wants to come up here and ask these questions? For anybody who is watching on YouTube or Twitch, discord.gg/platinumpolitics. If you want to come join the politics debate stage, and you can come ask a question too. But at the moment, we're going to see if anybody from the server right now would like to join.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying, Mappo.
No, it's not. That's not what you've been saying. Oh man.
I'm saying that. Okay, question.
I will say, I wish I knew more about Hellenic polytheism. I feel like I'm about to not say it every single time.
You could just say Hellenism.
Hellenism. See, that's where I got Hellenist. Okay, yeah, I don't even know really where to ask questions. There is somebody who said, people in 2025 genuinely believe the Greek gods were real? Question mark. So, DKAS, I assume. Do you have any response to that in particular?
Well, yeah. It's. I feel like once again in ancient times, the Greeks were closer to the truth than literally everyone else, and I think that people are now looking into the ancient Greeks, and they're like, "Oh crap, that kind of makes sense." And
Not really.
people are starting to Hellenism's making its comeback slowly but surely. That's at least my
No, I think you
belief.
should
So
stick
most
to the
of
best
religions are like,
explanation. That's called converting to Christianity.
okay, but people are turning away from Christianity like at a faster rate than ever. Like, if you, I don't know like a specific statistic on it, but every like right wing or like Christian person on like social media is like, yeah, why are all the Gen Zers not being Christian? Like that sucks.
Pretty sure it's a difference, considering that there's a rise of church attendance among Gen Z people. But sure, go what we believe in. It's fine.
Vertigon,
Okay.
who is your question for? And
For ACC, because it's one that may actually press things into a bit of a different direction since he's been arguing the transcendental argument for God. You state that God is necessary for logic and logic and knowledge exists, therefore God exists.
Yep.
Substantiate your first claim to the extent that it is actually required for God to exist for these two to exist.
It's disjunctive. It's modus ponens. There has to be an alternative or not. It's either or. So that's what substantiates it.
Yes, I know, but modus ponens depends on all claims in the deductive argumentation being true.
Right. You're right. It is dependent on it being true, which is why you need a possibility to the contrary in order for it not to be true.
Okay, but what if we say that there could be multiple other explanations for logic and knowledge themselves, such that you do not have to have God as the primary reason for it? Like, what makes God a better reason for these two concepts existing?
Well, are you arguing that there could be existing of hypothetical concepts which could substantiate the argument better? Or substantiate logic as being universal, the preconditions of it?
Not necessarily. I'm saying that your first statement requires a precondition of God for it to exist, and therefore those things exist. But how are you making that linkage? How is that true?
It's true. I'm saying it again. It's disjunctive. It's either or. It's a point where it's a possibility to the contrary. It's the same exact reasoning that Plato, or actually I think Aristotle had used for the reason why logical laws exist and why they're universal and like completely
I guess that I'm trying to move like a little further back, because you're arguing that God must exist for these concepts to exist.
Yeah, for them to be universally binding.
Like, why must God exist for these concepts to exist? Not
because it's
just
universal.
disjunctive, huh?
There exist universals, right? They have to be substantiated. They have to have some sort of meta standard in order for it to be universal. Otherwise, it collapses into either relativism or just subjectivism. Essentially, there wouldn't be really a way of delineating on how you know it's true. Or if you believe that these things are universal, it falls into probably Platonism. Essentially, you wouldn't know like how you know they are.
Okay, so what makes the argument for God a better argument than Platonism itself?
Because Platonism cannot substantiate its own like concepts of abstraction. Like we wouldn't really know how exactly like for example, murder is wrong. It's a abstraction it's a moral abstraction that's floating out there in the metaphysical, right? But we wouldn't really know what is substantiating that. I made this point with DKAS where what exactly is the causation for love and all these, and it's just quote unquote chaos. and what causes
Mhm.
chaos? Unavoidable nothingness, essentially. But it's just that if we couldn't necessarily know how exactly these are, how do we know logic isn't just like a pony eating its own tail? Essentially, it's something that's what Platonism can't substantiate. How it knows that these things are true. They know it's true, but they can't say how it is true.
Okay, so how can we substantiate God as an immovable mover that exists outside of time and outside of all things itself, outside of a mystical explanation?
Well, it's in the. I would argue definitionally that God has to be uncaused in order for it to be God. It's in his definition of a maximally great being. That he has
Yes, but isn't.
All right, Vertigon, I'll give you one more. You can get one more question in, and then I want to see if anybody else would like to speak.
All right, sorry. But my last thing is, if it is definitionally true, does that not itself kind of shoehorn in some implications that are not able to be proven true or false, such to the extent that it kind of fails to actually be certified by logical rigor?
We mean like being a maximally great being.
No. The definition of
Of
the
a max-
definition of God itself as the immovable mover, like by definition necessarily uncaused, and these specific characteristics that are seen and not properly evident within within other domains, such that it feels like an abstraction to the extent of where it fails itself.
Could you repeat that? I got a little lost. I'm not gonna lie.
You're good. I'm sorry. I'll try and make it short. What I'm trying to think of how to word it right. Well,
Or just take your time with articulating. It's fine.
you are making God definitionally an unmoved mover because by this it has to be the initial cause of creation, but that does not fit in with the rest of how creation itself operates. And to some extent, defining God as this externality and inherently good and having these particular qualities in a way makes it definitionally true to the extent that it feels as though the rigor of itself falls a little bit into not really a prove or disprove, but more definitionally true itself.
Well, if we're going to talk about the nature of a supposed being of all creation, then they would have to definitionally have to fall into these maximally great attributes.
Well, then,
Maximally
yeah, I
great
guess that
or great,
Okay.
great making properties. Example, like you have to be, if your God is say all knowing, all powerful, but not all good, then there's something higher than God. There's because yeah, like I think we've gone over this before. Not in this debate, but evil or goodness has ontology, while evil does not. So if God is ontologically reliant on something, there's something above God, which would be contradictory to the nature of God itself. That's how we like logically prove that he has these great making properties, such
But
as
why
knowing
can't there be things above a god?
because it wouldn't be God. It would definitionally just not be God then.
According to your definition.
I mean, if you can somehow substantiate a definition where God isn't just this little, I guess, like this little woman who kind of just goes around on petty little rampages, then sure, go for it.
But like I don't see why that has to be one extreme or the other.
If my definition is more coherent, where yeah, it makes sense for God to be able to be outside of time, is able to control everything, or not necessarily everything, but is able to have sovereignty over his own creation, then I would say that's a very more coherent definition of God, rather than, this person's a deity or a god because they emerged from a thing that they rule over, even though the thing that they rule over is kind of in question. Like, for example, the Honda Civic, or like, why can't I just not be a god of Honda Civic? Like, why can't there just not be a god of Honda Civics at all if it's all like dependent on creation? If the existence of gods in the pantheon are dependent on creation itself.
Well, like I said earlier, I guess I conceded. Yeah, I guess there could be like a minor deity of Honda Civics if you really want to make that stretch. But like,
You're right. If that's the truth, then that means that divinity is just material, which would take the whole point out of divinity.
so what's the point of divinity to you?
Divinity is where it's it's completely unattainable, where the only thing that's able to attain to it is God.
And there can't be forces above that?
Nope, God is the highest force. That's simple.
But then at that point, you get back to the other thing I was saying, where okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. is what God says, is that good because God says it, or is God just of the nature to say good?
This is your attempt to throw the Ethereal dilemma at me?
I'm literally just asking. I'm literally just asking.
Well, I'm saying God is ontologically goodness itself. Like he is.
So he's just of the nature to be good.
Yep. You cannot just be the opposite. Like, for example, God cannot lie, not because God isn't like it's not that fact that God can't lie. It's just that lying would be contradictory to his nature because he only says the truth. He only says the truth. It's a contradiction.
So why does God do immoral things?
What makes him immoral?
Immoral is just I almost fell for that trap. It's immoral for several reasons, logically, and also
Wait, there's logic in moral arguments. I mean, in some aspect there are, but hold on. What's the logical argument that you can use that you can condemn my God for commanding the death of the slaughter of the Israelites?
because very simply put, right? We're gonna go back to this example again. I believe, right, that not even from my religious standpoint, I just believe that a toddler and cattle, they didn't do anything wrong, right? So there's no reason to justify killing them.
Being wrong.
Define wrong?
What would exactly be wrong or right in this framework? This seems to be is this an attempt
Well,
to
no, just because you didn't do anything against me. You didn't do anything to warrant me defending myself or some sort of retaliation. You just lived life. You existed. You existed and you were killed.
Okay, so where exactly is the moral imperative not to do that thing, or the moral imperative that makes it bad? How do you do that?
Well, logically speaking, right, taking someone's life is just wrong, right?
Why is it wrong?
It's wrong because you are not only invalidating their past, right, but you're taking away their future. I believe that it's just inherent that people should have freedom, right?
It's inherent that they should just have it. It's just inherent to their nature. They just should have it.
Yes.
Okay, it's inherent to my nature to kill other people because I deem it so.
Well, you don't.
Why not? I see it as right. You don't. You see it as wrong. What do we do here?
Oh, there's multiple ways I could tackle that, I guess.
Go for it.
The way I would see that, right, is I would use the majority argument. The majority of people would say that is wrong. So I'm more inclined to believe that the majority is right. I'm not saying they're 100% undeniably right, because the majority can be wrong. But if
then why appeal to them?
If literally everyone is saying, hey, that's wrong, what did you say?
Why do appeal to the majority if they can be wrong? They could be wrong about the most simple moral statements, such as murder is wrong. Why appeal to them if they could possibly be wrong?
Because if everyone's saying the same thing, it probably should warrant some looking into.
If everyone says we should murder DKAS, does it make it okay to murder you?
No.
Why?
Well, from what I was saying, from that standpoint, yes. But from a Hellenic polytheist standpoint, still no.
Okay, cool. Now we're going to move to the Hellenistic, polytheistic framework. You argued that, or you said that there is this god of natural order.
Yeah.
Themis.
Themis.
Sorry, yeah, Themis. You said Themis came about with natural order, and the thing is, where did natural order come from?
It is a constant of the universe.
It's a constant of the universe. Okay. So this constant of the universe just isn't we just somehow, again, this is Platonism. It's just they exist. These abstracts exist. So therefore...
It's not even Platon. Okay, how does your God exist?
Through the transcendental argument for God.
Okay, wait, sorry, say that.
Transcendental argument for God.
So you don't just say he's uncreated, he's just a constant of the universe?
I argue that there are things that necessitate his existence. For example, logic and knowledge. You can't have logic unless God exists. Otherwise, logic is not here.
Why can't there just be no logic in the universe?
And why would we ever debate at any point? And that wouldn't even make sense, because if you say there is no logic, that's implicitly a truth claim, which would require some semblance of appealing to logical laws to even understand that.
No, but I'm saying alternate reality in which there is no creator, then there's no reason for any of us to exist.
So what aboutism?
Okay, well, what's your argument for how God exists? What's the big word you said?
Transcendental argument for God. I mean, I gave the syllogism. I mean, me and Vertigon talked talked about it for a little bit, so we had our ideas. Like
But
my
that doesn't
idea
make
was
it mutually exclusive to him being a constant of the universe. You're giving why he exists, but you're not
Yeah.
giving the origin. What's the origin?
I had to explain why God exists. I don't see why I had to explain God exists because he's uncaused.
Exactly what I am saying about the natural law. It is
Not the
uncaused.
same. You're okay. You're saying your thing is uncaused. Okay.
Yes.
This uncausation is what made the universe. Okay, cool. Does this uncaused thing govern it? No, not really, because we have these Greek pantheon gods, where we have these little Greek gods emerging from people's balls. So, like, I don't. It's like it's not really the same thing in this circumstance because when I say my God's uncaused, and him being uncaused is the reason why all things exist, while you're saying this uncaused thing is the reason why these Greek gods exist, and these Greek gods rule over these things, even though in
No,
reality it should be the uncaused thing that does.
the natural law doesn't like create the gods. That very one important thing to remember about Hellenic polytheism is that everything does like one or two specific things. There is nothing that does everything. But this natural law has a specific job, and that is in the absence or in the upon when you transgress upon the natural law, then miasma is generated. Themis is no longer present, and this is the domain of Nemesis, the goddess of divine retribution, or what's the word? I forget what the word is, but yeah, that goddess would be there in that place, as if in the same way that darkness is the absence of light, Nemesis is the absence of the natural law.
Of the natural law. Okay. How are you able to understand that it is natural law in the first place? Like, what exactly, like, when you say it's natural law, that is presupposing a teleology, a way of, like, how it's supposed to be created. Like, how do you know that? Like, this is how natural law is.
Well, this is where we get back into what I was saying earlier.
Well, no, why can't I just say miasma is a part of natural law?
Because it's the absence of it.
Miasma is the absence of natural law.
Yeah, miasma is generated when the natural law is broken.
Okay. How do we know the natural law is broken?
Well, for starters, Themis informed humanity of the natural law and what breaks it, and that I believe lives inside of us in our hearts to this day. Every human has an innate sense, at least on a basic level. We're not going to agree on everything, but on a basic level, all humans have this innate sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, some would say it's even written on their hearts.
Yes.
True, but the thing I'm trying to really get here is, since Themis deems this as breaking natural law, is natural law based upon what Themis says, or is natural law just not or is just natural law what like Themis wills, or is natural law simply outside of Themis?
Outside of Themis.
Okay, so what he
Themis
deems
does not control the.
as breaking or not breaking natural law would simply be arbitrary, would it not?
Well, no, Themis told us what the natural law is, but Themis does not control the natural law.
He's dependent on natural law.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, if he's dependent on, and he's dependent on natural law, and he says this is natural law, that means that there exists something that created it in the first place, where Themis is able to recognize it. Yawn. Oh, oof.
The circles we go in. The natural law is uncreated. As long as the natural law exists, Themis exists.
Just Platonism, then. It's just Platonism. You keep trying to say it's not really
Platonism. Your God is uncreated too.
Yeah, but he's the ruler of all things.
He's the ruler of all things, so that makes sense why he's uncreated.
Yeah, it would. If the uncreated being is the reason why things are created, then that would make sense. But if you have this uncreated thing that's created everything,
y'all.
really
We're pushing on the about 2-hour mark here.
Damn.
I got maybe like 5 minutes, and then we'll do closing statements, and then we'll wrap this up. Floor is open for 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Basically, what I was gonna ask, what would happen from your point of view, from your worldview, if there were multiple uncreated beings?
That would be, I think, an inherent contradiction.
How?
Multiple uncreated beings would necessitate an idea that uncreation is like sort of naturally occurring, which wouldn't make any sense if there's multiple uncreated things. It's like kind of it's ad infinitum in that aspect, because like it's how these two things are uncreated. So what exactly is shit, how do I put this? If you have two uncreated things, it's trying to necessitate, or I guess it's presupposing an idea that it's normal to have multiple uncreated things, which wouldn't really make any sense because then we would have multiple uncreated things that we could observe, I guess, but we don't.
Okay, let me try to explain it like this. Basically, if you take a video, right, and then you play that video, the second that video starts being played, you have two constants: the video and the audio, the moving images and the sound waves. Those are two things that just happen. It's a constant of you playing that video. So in the same way, when the universe starts, there are just certain constants that happen. They just happen when the universe starts, because that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed how you said like there's this constant, right? With like there's like multiple different things that are filming the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like a problem because if it's uncreated, being something uncreated by definition would be necessary, eternal, and it's independent. If there were two or more uncreated things, they have to be different in some way. Otherwise, they're just not.
Yeah, they're different, such as chaos
Right,
being
but
the creator,
if there's difference between uncreated independent things, that implies a form of limitation, which would contradict the idea of uncreated.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. It doesn't have to be unlimited.
Why?
There can be uncreated things that have their limits.
That is such a contradiction.
I think you're thinking of it as the nature of the Christian God and not as separate concepts.
No, you can't have two separate uncreated things they have to be independent of one another. They can't be dependent on anything at all. If they are both different, there's a limitation. We don't know it, but there's a limitation in which they're different. So it's contradictory to have multiple uncreated things.
Maybe I'm just being stupid, but I don't understand how you make that jump.
What do you mean? Okay.
Multiple uncreated things that are both limited. What's the problem? Oh, is that a question we have? Mace, can we take the question?
What is it? Where's the question at?
Yeah.
Okay. For DKAS, can you say if killing children is objectively wrong from your worldview? If it is not objectively wrong, then how can you criticize anything Christians have done?
Yes, I have touched on this multiple times in this debate. In fact, I think it's one of my strongest points, the morality of Christianity. In Hellenic polytheism, murder of another human being is objectively wrong. This is information given to us by the goddess Themis, who represents the natural law, because killing another human being transgresses upon the natural law, and the consequence is miasma. This miasma will attract harmful spirits into your life that will fuck you over. So killing is wrong in any circumstance, but why is someone knocking on my window? What the fuck?
I'm outside. Come out. No, it's just
Platinum Politics Attitude Era. We're in your backyard, literally.
I don't know. I don't see how there can be multiple uncreated things that are limited. I think that's what you said, right? You said there are multiple uncreated things that could be limited.
I think they're double checking outside their window at the moment.
Oh, oops.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, to finish my thought, yeah, it's objectively wrong to kill a child, as opposed to, if you believe in Christianity, it's not objectively wrong if God tells you to.
I mean, it's not objectively wrong if if Themis were to tell me what natural order is, then I guess whatever natural order is what Themis themes it, even though...
Well, no, because
Themis requires
you think that it's of God's nature to just tell you what is good. I believe...
Oh, he is good.
Exactly. But I believe Themis is different than that. Themis is basically informing us of the constants of the universe. There's a power above Themis that works with Themis. So if Themis told me, well, that would be even contradictory, because Themis just says, killing bad. And then the Christian God goes, killing bad, unless I tell you to, but then killing good. See, Themis never has and never will say to kill someone. It would contradict what Themis said before, as to where the Christian God has done that, and it does contradict what he says.
Okay, again, with Themis, he's saying that there exists natural law, yet Themis is dependent on natural law to even himself to exist. Yet he's recognizing that natural law exists, and what he says is natural law because he's dependent on it. So, the big question remains is, what really is like, how does he really know it's natural law? It just exists? Like, there exists this teleology of natural law?
Oh well, yeah. Yeah. He just knows because she's the goddess of natural the natural law. Also, fractured. I don't reckon you want to bring up slavery, in I don't want to go on a whole other tangent, but I'll say it very quickly. The Greeks treated their slaves infinitely better than the Christian Americans did.
You were fucking.
Infinitely
Okay, wait,
better.
never mind. Okay, that's different from Christian Americans with chattel slavery, I guess.
Yeah, the North Atlantic, not North Atlantic, the Atlantic, the black slaves in America. Yeah, the ones that they, well, not proven, but allegedly, fed their babies to alligators. The ones that they proven, did buck breaking. They, stuffed furniture with their hair. Yeah, the Greek slaves were seen as a part of the family unit. If you look into what oikos means, you're basically just like you're chilling. You just do what you're told and you're good. You don't get hurt. You're not supposed to hurt your slaves unless they like disobey you, as opposed to it's so different. It's just infinitely different. Like if I had to pick a time period to be a slave, I would rather be a Greek slave than anywhere else. And then not only does it's not even just the Greek thing, because the Bible endorses slavery. In Deuteronomy, it specifically says you can own slaves and pass them down to your offspring. That is the
What?
word of God.
It does not say that at all. That you can pass down your slaves.
You can, yeah, I forget if it uses the word slave or property, but you can own people as your property and pass them off to your children. Do you want a chapter and verse?
I mean, the thing about the whole slavery aspect of like Christianity is just that it's codification of it during a time in which slavery was natural. I don't really see how, if God made the position that no, slavery is objectively wrong no matter what, you kind of have, I guess, every economic system would kind of collapse then, essentially, or God would be calling every single civilization that practiced slavery evil, considering it's the main backbone of their economy. So,
No, because it was the backbone of economies. God was like,
let's
I guess
codify
you
it.
could do it.
Yeah, let's codify it.
Codify it? What do you mean?
He made rules around it.
The rules didn't seem to help much, again, considering the black slaves. But even then, why not just say, "Hey, stop that! Stop!" Like
All
he's.
right. I think we are at the point.
Wait, hold on. Last
And
sentence. Last sentence.
Last sentence.
God has destroyed entire cities, wiping them off the face of the map for a lot less than slavery. That's it.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move on to final statements. ACC, you have the floor because DKAS had the first chance to speak in the beginning. For those who are still watching on YouTube and Twitch, hope you are enjoying. This is our first live stream. Yeah, if you have any questions or if you want to come join the conversation yourself, discord.gg/platinumpolitics. But for now, ACC, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
all right, so to close this off, my opponent kept appealing to Themis as an objective, unchanging moral like guidance, but her god literally violates like Themis constantly, or constantly is violating it. There's also how you make this argument that you could have multiple or not an argument. I mean, it is hypothetical. You could have multiple uncreated beings, yet that would literally mean that it would just be contradictory to it. I personally think the whole debate was, I think, a bit of a shit show, because if it's possible that you had a Honda Civic God exists, then I don't really see how like you can have any sort of like genuine coherence in reality if you can have gods that literally occur if you make a different type of pants. So that's the main issue with I have here with it. It just falls into ad infinitum of incoherence. Unlike Christianity, where we have a single uncaused being, which makes sense, unlike multiple uncaused beings. But I don't really see that as being wrong. There's also how he or she kept appealing to like the Canaanite slaughter as a bad thing. They couldn't really go beyond just saying, I kind of feel it's wrong, but they pivot to, well, Themis says it's wrong, and Themis would never change their opinion, even though Themis has violated quote-unquote natural law over and over. So, like, I mean, Aphrodite has violated Themis, so I guess she's evil. The goddess that violates natural law is now, I guess, evil according to their own standard. But yeah, that's what I can really say. Christ is king. I yield my time.
Okie dokie. DKAS, your 5-minute final statement starts now.
I guess, yeah, I wanted to respond to that last part. The natural law is only for humans. Gods don't apply to that, and then animals don't apply to that. I'll explain the nitty gritty of that later. Well, in another debate, because this is the final statement. So I guess I'm gonna say, I'm not entirely happy with how my arguments came out. I definitely could have like presented them a little better. ACC was definitely more organized. So yeah, good on you for that. I still think that a lot of your arguments was just like, nuh-uh, it wouldn't work like that. It's not how it works. And I think my strongest argument definitely by far was the morality piece, because it's just a lot stronger when you get to like oh yeah, if God told me to kill or shoot up a kindergarten, I would, because God can't be wrong. Yikes, you know. But other than that, yeah, I think Hellenic polytheism for the win. I don't know if you guys think that it's stronger because I say so. Fuck ass argument, bro. He conceded that he would shoot up a kindergarten if God told him to. That I reckon that Hellenic morality is a wee bit stronger. Especially when you have, like, don't be gay on the same level as, like, other shit. When, like, just, like, don't rape, don't kill, don't do incest, don't do cannibalism. It's very simple. It's very, very, very demure. Yeah, justifying the genocide of those people because they're a bad people, guys. The toddlers deserve to get decapitated. The camels and the oxes deserve to be slaughtered because they went against God. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Also, that was the Spartans that threw kids off cliffs. That wasn't the Greeks. I'm stupid. Not gonna say Spartans. I meant to say Romans. It was the Romans, not the Spartans. And even then, it was debunked. That was just a thing that they made up. Like, they didn't find any, like, corpses of little kids in that area. But yeah, overall, solid debate. GG. Yeah, I don't like Christianity, but you're cool.
I really hope you enjoyed that debate. Remember, if you want to check out these debates and be one of the first people to see these debates, come join the server, subscribe, and go follow us on Twitch. We are also live on Twitch. But anyway, that's all I have for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next debate night.